Hey, Shelby McDaniel here. Thanks for taking some time to check out this video on emotional eating. It's a very important topic we talk about here today. Emotional eating in my practice has really been, I would say, one of the top complaints that clients are really seeking some help for. I think a lot of them coming in really feel they have a willpower problem, or that they're addicted to certain foods, or they feel they must have control over every aspect about their food intake in order to control all of their emotional overeating. But I'm here to tell you that resolving emotional eating involves none of those things. Having an emotional connection with food is actually really important when it comes to a healthy relationship with food. And while I'd say food has inherent limitations in meeting our emotional needs, food can and should bring us pleasure and comfort. Honestly, it's part of every single culture around the world. I know that I feel home when I come home and I smell vanilla and cinnamon in the air, or I feel a sense of safety with a chicken pot pie, or even I feel a sense of belonging in family. For example, when my sisters have competitions about who has the best thumbprint cookies at Christmas, and so again, so it's integrated in on so many cultures, on so many levels, but too many of us, I think, are using food as a placeholder, right, for our emotional needs, or we use food to numb our emotions altogether. And unfortunately, so many have just become so inextricably bound up with emotion and circumstances in today's crazy world. And so we find ourselves eating out of anger, or maybe happiness, or boredom, or loneliness, or anxiousness, sadness, excitement, you name it. And even food restriction, aka dieting, both physically and mentally can and in of itself trigger this kind of feeling of loss of control due to, there's physical and psychological reasons for that, but this feeling out of control can a lot of times feel like the emotional eating in and of itself. But overall, emotional eating happens technically when we're eating upon being triggered by emotions versus eating because of our biological hunger cues. And although we get kind of like this short-term comfort from food without proper caretaking skills, we get stuck, right? We get stuck, and then we develop this habit and we become dependent on food then for this instant better fix. But as you've probably learned, food doesn't fix those feelings, right? And dieting doesn't fix your lack of emotional coping skills. So if I'm being honest with you though, it's not the feeling that leads to the emotional eating like we think it does, right? It's really the inability to be and sit with that feeling and to tolerate that feeling. So without making this YouTube video hours long, I just want to give you some to-the-point strategies to help you take some steps forward if you're struggling with emotional eating. Now, these specifically are kind of overview step-by-step strategies for when you're in the hot seat and you're already feeling the emotions, like it's already here, right? This is not a proactive necessarily strategies I'm going to be giving you. So they're not the only strategies, to consider. Like I just mentioned, there's definitely proactive means that and strategies that you can use to help with the emotional eating, but we'll save that for another time. So now the steps that I'm about to review, they might sound easy, okay? They might sound easy, but they're not going to feel easy necessarily, or even natural at first. And because you've probably got quite a few years, okay, of conditioning your brain to use food to cope when you're experiencing some emotional discomfort. To decondition using food to cope with these uncomfortable emotions, you need consciousness, you need time, and you just need some practice, okay? Those are your best friends and the bridge to really building new, long-lasting self-care practices that actually serve you. All right, so here's just a couple steps. Feel free to replay this at any time for a refresh. So when you're feeling in the hot seat and you got these emotions, you want to go to the food. The first step that you can do is just ask yourself, am I biologically hungry? Sounds like a simple question, right? It could be really powerful. This is a great braking system for you to practice bringing into consciousness, okay? Bringing that into the conversation. And by doing so, you're already beginning to interrupt the pattern. And so this is a huge step. you're not going to remember the next time you go for something out of emotion to ask yourself, okay, wait, am I biologically hungry here? Nor is it going to be the cure-all where it's always going to be enough to stop you from continuing to pursue that emotional eating behavior. But you got to start somewhere. And that is with this very powerful question. So even if that helps bring awareness to your emotions, even helps reduce 5% of some of your emotional eating, awesome. Okay, good job. So step 2 after that, you could then proceed with, what am I feeling? Putting a name to your feelings is so important. How do you know how to respond to what your emotions are telling you if you don't take a second to even think about what you're feeling? Okay, so it's not always an easy step. Not everyone feels confident in being able to identify what they're feeling. So if this is you, be compassionate with yourself, don't judge. And guess what? Get Googling for some emotions and feelings cheat sheets so you can begin to put into words what you're feeling. Those 2 steps alone, huge, even if you don't even visit any of my other steps that I'm about to review. So focus, start somewhere, start with one thing, and don't try to do it all and do it all perfectly. Okay, so that's the second step. Now, step 3, let's say you identify, nope, not hungry, feeling really pissed off right now, feeling really angry right now. Step 3 is soothe the body. And why is that important? Because no matter what feeling you're experiencing, you are going to experience that feeling literally in your body. So this is a great opportunity to just try to identify, where are you feeling that? Is it in your jaw? Is it in your shoulders? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your fists? So even if your mind is racing, okay, and it's just yapping up there, calming the body is a very proactive step to actually calming the mind, kind of settles things down. So think about fast ways that have nothing to do with food that can calm your body. Take, for instance, the breath. Breath work is so powerful. Even if you've never done any formal breath work, just taking a few deep breaths to help calm your blood pressure. Amazing, okay? Softening maybe some of those areas that you feel the emotion. So maybe you need to lower your shoulders or unclench your jaw. You could also take a soothing bath. You could also wrap yourself in a blanket. You could move more. You can change your physiology a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to do a hardcore workout, but just, going from I feel sad to, you know what, everything's going to be okay, kind of position can really, benefit you greatly. But once again, it helps calm the body. And once again, that's another step in interrupting those old patterns, doing something new, but not just something new. It's something new that also truly nurtures you. Because after all, look, at the end of the day, we use food to cope. Why we do that is to typically soothe and comfort ourselves in the moments of discomfort. Okay? Now, step 4 is let's talk about how do we soothe the mind. You try to take a deep breath. We got this chatterbox up here and it's just working overtime probably, right? So how can you soothe your mind? Well, one, just try to notice, are you attacking yourself with self-hatred remarks and criticisms? Are you overthinking something that you just don't need to? Are you kind of stuck maybe in some perfectionistic thought patterns? How can you soothe your mind? You can talk about it, right? You could write about it. You could even sing your problems. I was reading a book about how to soothe your crappy emotions, I think is the title of it. And she had such a really awesome suggestion of singing out your problems to I'm a Little Teapot. At first I thought that is weird, but then, as you actually do it, it becomes kind of fun. And it actually literally can calm the mind down. So feel free to try that one. Sometimes we often need to step into a more nurturing, supportive voice. That's a voice that's very weak. We don't use it often. We don't know what that voice even sounds like sometimes. And this is where I find most people really need to do a lot of that work, is addressing those sometimes toxic but unhelpful thinking and belief systems that are just pounding themselves with, and they're just 100% ineffective and unnecessary. So sometimes too, when your mind is going, just as another suggestion, sometimes it is 100% appropriate that you do just need to find a healthy distraction, right? To kind of soothe the mind. And it's not that we're ignoring how you're feeling, but sometimes things just do trigger us. And sometimes there's really no need to respond literally to that trigger. There's no action that you really need to do. You're just triggered. Maybe there's nothing you can even do about a situation. You keep thinking about it, right? This is a great opportunity to choose something healthy. Again, it has nothing to do with food, where you just use that to kind of let that go and then move on so you don't react to that particular trigger, okay? Now, step 5, this is the hard one. This is the hard work. And this is where most people don't want to do the work, but it's the life-changing work. And step 5 is you got to go deep and really look at, what are you truly hungry for? What are these emotions asking of you? What are your maybe deeper desires? Maybe your spirit needs some attention, whatever that means for you. Maybe you have intellectual needs. Maybe you're not being stimulated intellectually. You're bored with whatever it is that you're doing. Maybe your circumstances, sure, like require your attention. You're not happy with the path that you're on, for example, or your living situation, or whatever that may be. Maybe you are wanting more connection in your existing relationships, or just connection with other people in general. Maybe you're lonely and you're isolating. You need to just get out where there's energy. So you might not get the exact answers in the heat of the moment. Okay, so this is, a little bit more of like an ongoing sort of, I would say, strategy. But you can't skip this step. You can't skip this step. So think about, if you are able to pinpoint, and if you need a little help, that's where you pair up with someone. We do this all the time. We kind of have to wear the life coach hat a lot of times with their clients who struggle with emotional eating, because it's not about the food, it's about something else. So once you're able to kind of pinpoint maybe what that is, what proactive steps could you do to, engage in overtime to meet these particular needs, or sooner than later? Like, what are your options? That's where you can put your energy. And I am telling you, as you begin to meet your needs, the symptoms then of this emotional overeating, it's going to drastically reduce, okay? So I know that was probably a mouthful, right? I'm sorry, feel free to go back, take some notes, and that's just the short version of really where I could go with emotional eating. So I really tried to keep it to the point. I hope that landed for you and you found it helpful for you. And as always, if you did find it helpful, you found it beneficial, please share it with someone else. There's so many people that struggle with their relationship with food, you just may not know it. Weight has no any association with somebody that struggles with food, okay? So, but if they have vocalized it, you guys have talked about it, share it. I would really appreciate it. I'm sure they would appreciate it, okay? So that's all for now. I'll see you next time.